All right, welcome everyone. It's 1:45, so I'd like to get started. You are welcome to participate in whatever way you feel comfortable, whatever works for you today. Video on, off, whatever works. Welcome. My name is Kristen Kavanaugh, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. I was actually chatting with Katie and Betsy beforehand, who have attended some of these today, and they helped me decide that that's how I'll be sharing this with you. And I think that will hinder me from being able to see the chat. So if something comes up, I'm going to try to check back as much as I can, but please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question or be like, hey, Kristen, there's something in the chat. So here is my presentation, and thanks for joining me today, this afternoon, for your last part of All Learners virtual workshop today. All right. So hopefully you are here to learn about Math Menu and what I am calling the hybrid style. So this word came to me honestly because I was teaching when Sandy asked if I might want to present at this workshop, and we were in our hybrid learning phase. And this has since evolved into, I'm thinking about Math Menu pre-COVID and in COVID. So if I talk about that, I just mean before this spring and our global pandemic started, and now where we are. So just a little bit about me. I am a 5th grade teacher at Rick Marcotte Central School in South Burlington. This is my 6th year teaching 5th grade, and I think it's my 3rd or 4th year teaching with Math Menu in my math block. I am in no means an expert. I am here to share with you what I've been trying today and share what I've been trying this year, and also hear from hopefully you all if you've been trying some things with Math Menu, and just get some takeaways all together for what we can try in our classrooms. Next up, you might have seen these already today, the common agreements from All Learners Network. So sharing the air, I'm gonna really try hard to honor private think time, although it might be a little awkward via Zoom. I'm gonna do my best. Take care of yourself. I know it's the end of the day. We'll be wrapped up by 3 o'clock at the latest. Keep your video on if that's possible for you, but again, we're all adults here. And then just helping embrace the struggle or challenge. And then I would also add to that, the learning as a process is please ask questions as we go. It will only make this more and more authentic. I want to just talk about what my math block looks like in my classroom. And this has come from, I am also a VMI graduate, and the work that I've done with Math Menu actually stemmed from projects I did there when I was in the grad program. So this is something that I've created, but I also worked really closely with my math coach at my school. Her name is Paula Jensvold. She's no longer a math coach. She's just an instructional coach. But I feel like I can't take credit for all of this. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So I use a math workshop model in my classroom with a launch, which just to warm up the brain, that takes about 5 to 10 minutes any day. A task, so some sort of engaging whole group task for 10 to 20 minutes. Menu time for 20 to 30 minutes. That's my longest block in part of my math block. And then wrapping it up around 5 minutes at the end. So what I'm here to talk to you today about is Math Menu and how we can tweak it and make it safe for everyone, and still have it going on. So I wanted to share with you what my Math Menu looks like, so that maybe if you are around that level 1 and not so familiar, when I refer to Math Menu, this worksheet is actually what I'm referring to. And if you're a level 4, then maybe you'll see something on my math menu that you like and want to take back. So there are requirements that students have to do at the beginning of every week. And right now, so my district is 4 days a week in person, 1 day a week fully remote. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in person, Wednesdays are remote. So this menu runs actually for 2 weeks or 8 days. Students have 8 days to complete it. So they have to correct last week's window pane. This is what I mean by a window pane. I put mine on the back of my math menu, and at the bottom of this slide, you can see the link to it if you wanted to take it and make a copy of it. So they're doing little tasks that relate to the current unit. Right now, you can probably guess we're in place value, and specifically we're looking at decimals. So students have this window pane to do every week on the back of their menu, and then the following week they have to check it and see if they got it correct. And they correct it if they didn't. They have a math journal prompt to complete, the window pane for the current sheet. Dreambox, we are lucky to have access to Dreambox at my school, and it's a great program for just right math skills, and we require at least 20 minutes on those 2 weeks. It's not nearly enough time, but it's some time. And then Teacher Station, which is, I'm looking to maybe you all to hear if you have implemented Teacher Station, you level 4 people out there, because I know I'm having a hard time with that one for sure. The choices, so after students finish the requirements, it might take them a day, it might take them a couple of days. After they finish the requirements, they then get to have choice. And this is why Math Menu is so engaging for students. They get to choose what they want to do for the next 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how much time they have that day. So there's 3 components: problem solvers, which is a worksheet; games, which you usually play with a partner or small group; and then some technology games they can play it on. They have Chromebooks at my school. And then at the bottom, you can see comments for teacher, comments for you. That's where I'll write correct window pane to students, or anything else, like great job this week, that sort of thing. Students don't usually comment back to me in 5th grade, but some do. They'll be like, I liked the games this week. So that's kind of cool. All right. I just checked the chat and I don't see any questions, but feel free. I have figured out how to access the chat now while I'm presenting. So feel free to just put anything in there that you might have a question about. Okay, cool. So moving on. Why is Math Menu important? So it gives students the choice, which then gives them power, right? So if they feel like they have chosen what they want to do, it's a lot easier for, like, classroom management purposes for the teacher to say, well, you chose that. So, that's what we expect you to be working on right now. And that usually gives them much more of a buy-in. That's why I love Math Menu, especially with 5th graders. Sorry, I'm going to talk a lot about my 5th graders. They're on my mind. For the teacher, it allows you to give some really thoughtful and purposeful choices for them to choose from. So and this takes time and a lot of effort. So I know this was something I really struggled with my first couple of years of Math Menu, was really finding those games that related to what we were doing, or problem solvers that related to the unit we were in. But once you find them, the nice thing is if you stay in your position, you can use them over and over again, and then it frees up time in coming years for you to find more engaging tasks and games. I know I pull from Bridges Math Learning Center as the curriculum that my district uses, but I also have been really into the Heinemann Math and Practice book and curriculum there. If anyone's familiar with that, that's a great one. And anything from Joe Bowler, I've been pulling from that website too, U-Cubed. So it takes a while. It takes a lot of time on the teacher's part, but definitely worth it. I find students are more engaged during this time. I feel like it gives them a chance to be responsible and hold themselves accountable for their learning. And I feel like it pushes them to grow up, so to speak. You know, I think that is true whatever age you are working with Math Menu. It just helps them to learn how to be independent as well. And lastly, the importance of Math Menu is that you can have a teacher station where you can be pulling small groups over because students have that worksheet that they are working on in front of them. They have all their requirements and their choices. So it frees the teacher up, or the specialist or a special educator or an interventionist who's in the classroom, to work with some students on either an extension or some misconceptions you might have seen. I like to use it for after I give a formative assessment, just a quick check-in. And I try to pull from both ends. So students who got the formative assessment right and just pull them over and talk about their thinking. And then students who maybe made an error on that formative assessment, like an exit card or something, and just have a conversation about it. So students are really engaged out in the classroom, and it really frees you up for some good conversations. I have found the key to Math Menu in my mind is classroom management. So what I like to do at the start of every year to build up some management skills with students is create this chart that I'm showing on the right-hand side. It's blank at the start of the year, and we take multiple class times to introduce each part of Math Menu and talk about the purpose and the expectation of each part of Math Menu. So I don't just jump in like, oh, you had Math Menu last year, great, we're gonna keep doing it. So today's math, here's your Math Menu. Instead, what I do is each new week, I think is how I did it this past year. Like in the first probably 8 weeks of school, I would introduce a new component of Math Menu. So the first one was the menu sheet. We just pulled it out. We talked about it. They looked at it, and they really didn't do much else. It was a really short menu sheet. It had like 2 requirements, and I don't even think it had any choices. So I just did a little bit at a time. And then at the end of class, we would go over, what the purpose was, like what did they think the purpose was, and what did they remember maybe from previous years, or what did they think the expectation was. So all of this is from my current year students, and I have the second page of it that goes over technology, problem solvers, games, that sort of thing. I just put it in here for you to see it. And as you can see, they had a pretty good idea of what was expected of them for Math Menu, and had been doing it for years. So, but that's just something that I like to do each year, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I feel like setting the expectations out first and forefront is important, and then going over anything that might not be going so well. Any questions about that? All right. So I wanted to show you a video of what my classroom looked like last year, or pre-COVID, during Math Menu, and what it looks like this year. And these clips are very short. They're like 40 seconds each. So if you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear this when I start playing it, that would be great. So video 1. Oops. And just getting to the next slide. Here is what my classroom looks like now.
Place value hockey. You seem like a good sheet right now. Wait, that's a shuffle? That is not a shuffle. No, I brought the bottom to the top. I brought the bottom to the top, and I brought the bottom to the top. This is going back and forth, back and forth. No, because I didn't take the same amount of cards every time. Okay.
So, minus the fact that those two young gentlemen were talking about someone was cheating on their cards, I wanted to just show you a snapshot. And I know that I definitely recognize that these are two different groups of students, but I think what I'd like for you to just think about is the similarities that maybe you saw in the two videos, but also the differences from the two videos. And on my next slide, and I'm on slide 10. So if you want to use those two videos to answer this, you can, or if you are someone who's been a part of Math Menu in the classrooms, you can just think about your own experience. Similarities and differences that you notice in those videos or in your own classroom. And I'm just going to explain how this activity is going to work, and then I'm going to give us a time to come back as a group. So this is called Grab a Box, and maybe you did it earlier, maybe not. On the next two slides, there's a similarities slide and a differences slide, and I might actually have to make two, which is fine. And I'd love for you to just grab one of the boxes on each slide, meaning click right into it. You can see I'm just making another slide, and then type in what you noticed. All right, that quick break went by quickly, and I have loved seeing your responses in the Grab a Box. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and just want to look at some of these together. And I just have to say I'm like smiling this whole time because this is how I feel my classroom looks. So it's nice to hear from kind of strangers that it seems the same to you. So definitely the pre is a lot quieter. That's something I noticed too. And it's something later on where I'm looking at each component and what has changed and what stayed the same. That for me is a little bit trickier. And I like how someone said it looked like organized chaos, because again, that's how I feel it is in the classroom, but I'm trying to let that go instead of what my Math Menu used to look like. They definitely have less collaborative work. There were two gentlemen on the floor playing a card game together, although they were, again, those are the ones that we're talking about. Are you shuffling or you're cheating, and whatever the case may be. So they were like yelling because they're 6 feet apart. So I do have a little bit more that I'm seeing now of students playing games together, but not nearly as much as it was pre-COVID. And thanks for these similarities. I will get back to the presentation mode, but I just like being able to look at them all together right now. I do feel like students are pretty engaged, and again, I'm hoping to hear from some of you if you're feeling the same thing. I do have flexible seating in my classroom. Thanks for whoever picked up on that. And pretty much working independently. And then awesome. Yeah. So for the most part, they are engaged in working on their assignments. So I do feel pretty lucky with my classroom this year too. So now let's just talk about those components and what I feel like I've been able to change and how I've changed it, and also what I feel like has stayed the same for me. So when I talk about these, I also want to just preface this with what the expectations are from my school district about students and where they can sit and who they can be near. For my school district or my school, the expectation is they have their assigned spots in the classroom, but they can move around the classroom as long as they are 3 to 6 feet apart. I try to make sure they're 6 feet apart if there's not one of those shields in front of them, and the tiles on my floor work really well for that. So 6 tiles apart. But I recognize that that might not be the same for your school or district. So just please take that as what it is that's what I'm allowed to do right now. So I do feel like some of the components are able to stay the same. You saw students on their Chromebooks in both videos working independently. The journal prompt stays the same. They still get a journal prompt each week. They answer it and glue it into their math notebooks. The window pane is the same on the back of the menu sheet. All of those things are really independent. The things that have changed are the components they used to do together with a partner or in groups. So I like to let students work on problem solvers together. Right now, they've been doing them, I have said, just independently. They are allowed to talk with table mates. So, you know, if 2 table mates are working on a problem solver together, that would be fine for what I feel is safe. Games, that's, I think, what makes the classroom really loud. You all picked up on that. Since they're 6 feet apart and when they're all in different places of the room, that can get pretty loud. And I'm trying to, as I said, just let that go and be what it is. I still want them playing the games. I love that part of Math Menu. So I'm just allowing that to be what it is. Each student has his or her own deck of cards, dice, or counters. So they're not sharing manipulatives right now, which also means they might have to record their partner's work on their worksheet instead of using one game board or worksheet to both record on. I have them do it both separately. So it might be a little extra work. Yeah, so they're all using their individual manipulatives right now. And then Teacher Station, as I said, that's the one I'm really struggling with figuring out how to make that work. Right now, I'm just doing 1 student at a time at Teacher Station, which doesn't feel great, but I don't feel comfortable bringing over multiple students and having them be at my table because I don't have any of those shields up. So I've just been doing them 1 at a time right now. So popping around to the breakout rooms, I am just learning at everyone is in so many different places with this and what their schools are allowing, and just making sure that we all feel safe. So I just want to reiterate, I wish I had learned all this before we had this presentation today, and I would have tried to cater it a little bit more, but I'm hoping that in the last 19 minutes or so, you'll at least have something that you walk away with that can help you just give students some choice and keep math fun and engaging. So the next piece, and really kind of the last piece, is I'd like to share with you what I've been doing for students on Wednesdays when they are at home in my school district. I have created an at-home menu that is completely separate from their in-school menu. So I'm on slide 17, but I'm also sharing it on my screen. It runs for 2 months just because it's only on Wednesdays. And so that gives about, depending on holidays and such, 5 to 6 Wednesdays that they're completing the menu. The components are a little different than my school menu. They have to complete a word problem, do some online practice, and then choose 1 or 2 tasks. And the tasks are either independent tasks or tasks they can do with family members. So some students, especially at the 5th grade level, are home alone, or at least with a parent who's working in the next room. And so we only have like 2 of the tasks are independent, and then the other 6 are, no, excuse me, backwards. 2 of them you can do with family members, and then the other 6 are all independent tasks. So just based on who's at home. I wanted to share with you what they look like. And again, you're more than welcome to take them, make copies of them. I just created them from my own thinking. And also when we went remote in the spring, the math coaches in my school district put together choice boards, and I took the choice board idea and turned it into what I'm calling an at-home math menu. And I'm sorry, it looks really busy, but hopefully once I explain it, it won't look too busy. It's sort of, I planned it like my menu in school. So there's the requirements at the top, choices at the bottom, and I'm expecting students to work about 45 minutes a day. The word problems are on the back. You can see they're down below here for when I print it out. They just print out on the back with some space to complete them. And then they choose an online practice. So that's a requirement, word problem and some online practice. And you can see Prodigy. We were just talking about that in one of the breakout rooms. My students love Prodigy. The online practice, and of course Dreambox, but the online practice, the games, I actually try to move away from what we're doing in the current unit and instead think about skills that should always be coming back up. That's just a personal preference for me. So that's why you see like math facts, something students, I believe, can always be practicing. So it's about 25 minutes to do a word problem and then some online practice at home. Then they pick 1 or 2 choices. And I'll just kind of let you look at these. The activities in blue are shaded on get recorded online paper, including the date they complete them. If they have this little sunshine symbol, that means they can be completed more than once. It's not a one-time task. They could do it again, but some of them are just a one-time task. And these, again, they may relate to the current unit, they may not. I have not thought of a science for this. I'm just playing it out and trying it with students this year. When we were fully remote in the spring, students were doing this for the week. I was making new ones actually every 2 weeks, excuse me. And they were submitting things online. And that was what John's question was about. Do I have them make a copy and submit digital copy or print out later? Great question. So what I do is I print this out, including if there's a family activity with instructions. They're linked here because my original thought was I'll post it on Google Classroom, but we're doing a lot of paper copies right now, just because it works with all of the students that are in front of us to give them a paper copy. So I'll print out the instructions to games, and that goes home with the menu. So everyone has access to that. Right now, I have been giving this out on the first Tuesday of the month. So they get their menu, this menu, any games that goes with it, and then lined paper. And they are handing it in at the end of the next month. So to be honest with you, it's December. My students have not even handed in their first at-home menu yet. But I'm hoping what they'll be handing in to me is a bunch of lined pieces of paper. And hopefully this menu has survived over the course of several weeks, and so that I can see what they've done. So it's all done with paper copies right now, but you could totally post this on Google Classroom. That's what I did in the spring. And then I had a separate, it was a really simple Google Doc with 4 boxes that just said, like, take a picture of your work or type in the box what you did from the menu for this week. It was called our Friday Share. And students would complete that every Friday during remote learning and talk about which task they did or which family member they played a game with. And then they turned that in on Google Classroom. So this, that's that one. And then I just linked another one in case you want to see it, you want to take some ideas, just some different tasks and activities. So now in this menu, I guess I was more focused on, we're ending place value and a lot of our decimal work before the winter break. So I wanted to keep place value and decimal work going while they're at home. So that's why you see some of those activities related to place value and decimals here. And at the same time, we're moving into a shorter unit on geometry and coordinate place values and graphing coordinate points. So you'll also see some of those on here as well. So that's how I've been keeping math alive at home. Although, as I said, to be honest, I'm not sure exactly how it's going because my 5th graders have not turned in their menus yet for these 2 months, but I'm hopeful that they've been enjoying them. That's what students have been telling me. And I know it worked pretty well in the spring. So I'm hopeful that this will keep going. And of course, sorry, I forgot to mention, I have this in mind because if we were to go fully remote pretty quickly, I want students to be familiar with a system. And this system, they are now getting familiar with now. So in the event we might have to go remote, then it would become, okay, so you know that math menu we've been doing for the past couple months? Now it's going to be your math session daily, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, Betsy. Yes, I have found, although the menu itself is pretty busy, that parents generally do appreciate the expectations and that there's a time limit at the top and that sort of thing. So thank you. All right. Oh my gosh, we're at the end. All right, it's 2:50. So I guess we're ending a little early. Well, we have one last quick activity to do, but I know as very busy professionals, hopefully this is just a good thing. We're ending a couple minutes early. So I'd love for you to think about a takeaway from today, and whether that be, and just think about it. You can type it into the chat, but please don't hit enter quite yet. We're going to enter them all at the same time. If your takeaway is just being able to chat with other people or hear some different ideas, that's great. If you are thinking you want to use something that I've shown today, that's cool too. I hope that as someone who attends many of these workshops and is a classroom teacher myself, I always like to have something that I come away with from the workshop. So I will stop my share. And if you want to take a minute to type that into the chat. Thank you for engaging with me. The last just piece of this is the all learners how to get in touch. So you can post about your experience if you want to from today. I took a snippet, use the snippet tool for this. So the links don't actually work on here, but I'll put this in the chat too. This is the actual link to this slide. And when you click on this, those are all actual links where you can go and click on them. So it didn't work in my slideshow, but there it is if you want to do anything more with all learners. So it's 2:53. I'm letting you go a little early. If you want to hang out and chat or have a quick question you want to ask at the end, feel free. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.